Ryan was just a young plumber looking for work. Emily was a single mom holding it all together with tape and coffee. Neither expected a broken pipe to be the beginning of something whole, but sometimes what needs fixing most isn't the plumbing, it's the people. This is a story about quiet kindness, second chances, and choosing to stay even when it's easier to walk away. It was barely morning when Ryan pulled up to the modest apartment complex, his old white van rattling slightly as he shifted it into park. The building looked tired, like it had once tried to be cheerful but gave up somewhere along the way. The beige siding was streaked with age, and the flower beds were mostly mulch and cigarette butts. Still, it was clean enough, the kind of place that told him the tenants did what they could. He grabbed his tool bag from the passenger seat and checked the address on his phone again. Apartment 2B, simple kitchen leak. The work order came in late the night before from the dispatcher. Normally these were in and out jobs, but when he knocked on the door and heard a little girl's voice yell, "Mommy, someone's here," he had a hunch it wouldn't be that simple. The door opened a moment later to a woman in her early 30s, hair pulled into a hasty ponytail, dark circles under her eyes, wearing a t-shirt with a faded cartoon bear, and a pair of leggings that had definitely seen better days. But even in her fatigue, there was something striking about her, an unpolished kind of beauty. Her eyes, a soft hazel, widened when she saw him. "Oh, hi," she said, pulling her sweater tighter around her. "You're the plumber." "Yep, Ryan here for the kitchen leak," he replied. She nodded and stepped aside. "Come in. Sorry it's a mess. I didn't think they'd send someone this early." He stepped inside. The place smelled like cinnamon and faintly of diapers. Toys were scattered across the living room floor. A stuffed giraffe, a plastic tea set, a headless Barbie. It wasn't dirty, just lived in, surviving. "No problem," he said, setting his bag down by the sink. "Where's the leak?" She gestured to the cabinet beneath the kitchen counter. "It started dripping yesterday. I put a bowl under it, but now it's leaking faster. I'd try to fix it myself, but I don't exactly have tools or the time." Ryan nodded, crouching down and opening the cabinet. He could see the bowl half full with rusty water, a faulty pipe connection, nothing too serious. While he worked, he could hear footsteps padding across the floor behind him, followed by a small, curious voice. "Are you my daddy?" Ryan froze for half a second. The voice was high and sweet, belonging to a little girl with wild curls and a face smudged with something sticky, maybe syrup. She looked about 4. "Lily," the woman gasped, rushing over. "That's not, I'm so sorry. She's curious." Ryan straightened, wiping his hands on a rag, and offered a soft smile to the girl. "No, sweetheart, I'm not your daddy," he said gently, "but I'm here to help your mommy." Lily considered him for a moment, then gave a small, approving nod and skipped away, as if that settled things. The woman Emily, he saw her name on a child's drawing on the fridge, looked mortified. "I'm so sorry about that. Your dad's not in the picture. Sometimes she asks. She doesn't see a lot of men around here." "No need to apologize," Ryan said, crouching back down. "Kids ask things. I've heard worse." He could feel her eyes on him for a moment longer before she cleared her throat and busied herself with picking up some toys. "Well, thanks for coming. I know it's probably not a big job." Ryan kept his head under the sink as he replied, "Honestly, this is one of the better ones today. At least nothing's exploded yet." That drew a small, unexpected laugh from her, and it stuck with him longer than it should have. The fix took about 45 minutes. Ryan tightened a couple of fittings, swapped out a cracked connector, and cleaned up the pooled water. While he worked, he could hear Lily humming to herself in the living room, occasionally talking to her dolls. Emily sat on the couch with a laptop open, trying to get through what looked like a spreadsheet while glancing at her daughter every few minutes. "You work from home?" he asked as he packed up. "Yeah," she said, rubbing her temple. "Part-time data entry. It's not great, but it keeps us afloat." He nodded. "That's more than a lot of people can say." There was a silence after that one that felt like it could stretch awkwardly but didn't. It was comfortable almost. Ryan picked up his bag and stood. "All done. Shouldn't leak anymore, but if it does, call the office and they'll send me back." Emily walked him to the door, Lily trailing close behind. "How much do I owe?" she asked, reaching for her phone. "Already billed through your landlord," he said. "You're good." Her shoulders sagged a little in relief. "Thanks for coming so fast and for, being kind about the whole daddy thing." Ryan smiled. It's nothing. She's a sweet kid. Lily tugged on his pant leg. Are you coming back? He looked down at her and crouched again. If your sink gets grumpy, again maybe, but you make sure to tell it to behave okay. She nodded solemnly. I'll tell it be good sink. That made Ryan chuckle. Emily opened the door for him. Take care, Ryan. You too, Emily, and you, Lily. The little girl waved as he walked back to his van. When he slid into the driver's seat and looked up at the building again, he noticed the curtain at the front window shift just slightly. That night, Ryan ate dinner alone in his one-bedroom rental, a reheated plate of spaghetti and some stale garlic bread he hadn't remembered buying. He flipped through channels without really watching, then ended up on his laptop filling out job reports for the day. But he kept thinking about the little apartment, about the way Emily looked like she hadn't slept in weeks, yet still managed to hold herself together, about Lily's voice asking if he was her dad, about that quiet moment when Emily had laughed. He didn't usually linger on clients fix the leak move on, but something about that place about them stuck with him, and he wasn't sure why. The next morning, Ryan was back on the road, but his mind wasn't on the rusted-out water heater he was driving to fix. It was on Emily's weary eyes, on Lily's hopeful face, on that apartment that smelled like cinnamon and survival. He'd probably never see them again. Most people only called once, but somehow he hoped he was wrong. Ryan was elbow deep in a rusted toilet tank in a downtown duplex when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it at first. Most calls during jobs were spam or the dispatcher double booking him. But when he finally wiped his hands and checked the name on the screen, made his chest tighten. Emily 2B. He hadn't saved the number, but he remembered it. He remembered a lot about that visit, the way Lily had asked if he was her dad, the cinnamon scent in the air, the quiet way Emily had smiled when she thought no one was watching. Ryan hesitated before answering. Ryan speaking. Hi, it's Emily from the other day. You fixed my kitchen sink. His heart gave a strange little lurch at the sound of her voice. Of course. Everything okay? Well, now the shower's acting up. It won't get hot, like it tries, but the water stays cold no matter how long I wait. I wasn't sure if I should call you directly or... No, it's fine. I've got a spot open late this afternoon around 4. Work. That's perfect. Thank you. See you then. He ended the call before he could say something unnecessary like, I'm glad you called, or I was hoping I'd hear from you. By the time he arrived at her apartment, Ryan realized he'd caught himself checking his reflection in the side mirror. He hated that. This wasn't a date. This was a fix. Emily opened the door looking just as tired as before, but less flustered. Lily clung to her legs shy now. Hey, she said. Sorry again for bothering you. You're not bothering me, Ryan said, stepping inside. Let's take a look. The bathroom was clean, but cramped. The tile had a few hairline cracks, and there was a stack of tiny plastic bath toys along the tub ledge. Ryan adjusted the faucet and waited. No heat. Likely a bad mixing valve, he said. I'll need to pull this apart. Should take about an hour, give or take. Do what you need to, Emily replied, already backing out. Just holler if you need anything. I'm bribing Lily with cartoons so she won't bug you this time. Ryan smiled. No worries, she's good company. While he worked, he could hear the faint sounds of children's shows and Emily moving about the kitchen, opening a fridge, pouring water, humming softly. He found himself tuning into the domestic rhythm more than he meant to. It had been a long time since he'd been around a home that felt like people actually lived in it. When he finished the valve replacement and tested the hot water, it surged to life, instantly satisfying. He rinsed his hands and stepped out. Emily was at the kitchen table with her laptop again, but this time she closed it quickly. All set, he said. You've got hot water again. That fast, it was a bad valve. Easy fix. She smiled, then paused, hesitant. Do you want something to drink? Water, coffee? I made a fresh pot. Ryan should have said no. He had another call in 40 minutes, but something in the way she asked, like she was offering more than just coffee, made him nod. Sure, coffee sounds good. They sat at the small kitchen table, each with mismatched mugs. Lily wandered over, climbed into her mother's lap, and laid her head on her shoulder, her curls tickling Emily's chin. She's always sleepy around this time, Emily said softly. It's her post-cartoon crash. Ryan took a sip. She seems like a good kid. She is. She's got a huge heart. Sometimes I think it's too big. There was a quiet moment between them, the kind that could slip into something deeper. if either of them let it. I hope it's okay I called you, she added. I didn't want to seem like I was making up reasons for you to come back. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Were you? Her eyes widened in protest, then she caught the smirk on his face and exhaled a laugh. No, but now I'm worried you'll think I was. I didn't, and even if you had, I wouldn't mind. She looked at him for a beat too long. Ryan looked away first. He didn't talk about himself often. There was no point. Most people didn't want to hear it, but for some reason, sitting there, he found himself saying, I was in the system, foster care in and out of different homes till I aged out at 18. Emily blinked, caught off guard. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't be, he shrugged. Made me good at fixing things. I always had to figure stuff out on my own. She nodded slowly. That must have been lonely. Sometimes, he admitted, still is. Emily looked down at Lily, now dozing in her lap. I get that. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It felt honest. Ryan stood to leave a few minutes later. You know where to find me if anything else breaks. Emily walked him to the door again. This time Lily reached up for a hug. Ryan crouched and gave her a small squeeze. Goodbye, Lily. Bye-bye, she murmured, sleepy-eyed. As Emily closed the door behind him, she lingered there for a moment, her hand still resting on the knob. She didn't say it, but he could feel it. Some part of her wanted him to stay just a little longer, and some part of him did too. That night, Ryan skipped his usual routine of frozen dinner and a beer. He cooked real food, pasta, garlic bread, even sautéed spinach. It wasn't much, but it made him feel oddly like he was preparing for something or someone. He sat on his worn couch plate in his lap and found himself staring at the blank television. All he could think about was the look in Emily's eyes when he said he'd grown up alone. It wasn't pity, it was recognition. Maybe loneliness could recognize itself in someone else. The next morning, he opened a drawer in his van and pulled out a small, unopened box, a toy dump truck he'd picked up weeks ago on sale, thinking he'd donate it to one of the shelters he sometimes worked with. But now he set it aside just in case. Over the next week, Ryan kept busy. He worked overtime, patched leaks, replaced disposals, and even handled a minor gas line scare. But every time his phone buzzed, he felt a flash of hope. It might be her again. It wasn't. Still, she stayed in his thoughts, the way she moved through her day like someone holding everything together with string and tape, the way Lily lit up when she saw him, the way Emily laughed like it surprised her. He told himself he was being ridiculous. He barely knew her, but he wanted to. On Saturday morning, Ryan found himself in a toy store staring at shelves full of dolls, books, and pink plastic everything. He picked out a book about animals and a soft plush bunny with oversized ears. He almost left without them, but instead he put them in a gift bag and drove to 2B. He didn't call first. When Emily opened the door and saw him, her eyes went wide with surprise and something else. Hey, he said, I was in the neighborhood. I remembered you said Lily's birthday was soon. Emily stared at him. It's today. Ryan smiled. Then I have good timing. He handed her the bag and she hesitated before taking it. You didn't have to do this. I know, but I wanted to. From behind her, Lily appeared in a glittery princess dress, her hair pulled into uneven pigtails. When she saw Ryan, she squealed and ran to him. Ryan! He caught her in a quick hug and laughed. Happy birthday, kiddo. She dragged the gift bag from her mom's hands and plopped down to open it right in the doorway. The bunny was an instant hit. Emily stepped aside. Come in if you want. We're just doing cake later. It's just me, her, and, well, that's it. Ryan hesitated, then stepped in. Wouldn't miss it. Later that afternoon, Ryan found himself sitting at a tiny table covered in pink paper plates and cupcake crumbs singing happy birthday, with a 4-year-old and a woman he was starting to feel far too much for. As Lily blew out her candles, she turned and blurted, You're the best daddy ever. The room went silent. Ryan looked up stunned but not offended. Emily's face turned scarlet. Lily, he's not honey. He's just a friend. Lily pouted. But he's nice. Daddy wasn't nice. Emily looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. Ryan looked at her, then at Lily. I'm not your daddy, kiddo, he said softly, but I'm really glad I got to be here today. Lily nodded as if that was good enough. But when Ryan looked up again, he noticed someone standing in the doorway, an older woman well-dressed with sharp eyes. Her lips were pressed into a thin line. Emily, the woman said coldly, can we talk? Emily stood stiffly. Mom, I didn't know you were coming. The woman's eyes flicked to Ryan, then to Lily, then back. Ryan caught the tone judgment loud and clear. I should go, he said, rising. Emily looked like she wanted to stop him, but her mother's presence was like ice in the room. Ryan gave Lily one last smile. Happy birthday, princess. Then he walked out before he could say something he'd regret. Ryan didn't sleep well that night. He kept replaying the moment in his head, Lily's wide-eyed joy, the slip of the word daddy, and then the sting of Emily's embarrassment. But it wasn't her he kept seeing. It was the older woman, her mother, standing at the door like she'd caught something shameful happening. Ryan had known that look, that quiet disapproval, the judgment that comes from people who never had to patch drywall with cardboard or heat water on a stove when the hot water tank gave out. She didn't even have to speak. Her face said it all. And that made it worse because what if Emily had seen him that way too? He didn't hear from her the next day or the day after that. He told himself not to take it personally. It had been a kid's birthday, not a milestone in their relationship because there was no relationship. He dropped off a toy, stayed too long, crossed a line maybe. Still, when Wednesday rolled around and his calendar was full of repairs, none of them made him feel better. By Friday, he found himself driving past her street for no reason, just a glance, just to make sure the lights were on. They were. Emily, meanwhile, couldn't stop thinking about that night either. Her mother had stayed for exactly 22 minutes, long enough to make veiled comments about setting boundaries, not confusing Lily, and being more careful with the kind of people you let in. Emily didn't argue, she never did, but she'd wanted to. She wanted to tell her mother that Ryan had shown up with kindness, not expectations, that he hadn't once looked at her like she was broken, that Lily had smiled more in one afternoon with him than she had in weeks. But instead, she'd let her mother leave with a tight hug and a tighter throat, and now she didn't know what to say to Ryan or how to say it. She wanted to thank him, apologize, and ask if he meant it when he said he was glad to be there, but the days passed and the silence got heavier. Then on Saturday morning, Emily got a text. Hey, just checking. How's the shower holding up? No issues. Emily smiled without meaning to. Her thumbs hovered. Still works perfectly. Best it's ever been. She hit send, then added another before she could lose the nerve. Also, thank you again for coming to Lily's birthday. She still carries that bunny everywhere. The reply came quickly. She's a great kid and it was a good party. Thanks for letting me crash it. A pause, then another message. Also, do you like breakfast? Emily stared at the screen, a little stunned. She looked over at Lily, curled on the couch with her bunny in a cereal bowl twice her size. I love breakfast, she typed. I make a mean French toast, just saying. Maybe, he replied, or I could bring it to you, say tomorrow morning. Emily hesitated. This felt like something more now, not a callback, not a fix, something real. Yes, she typed, but only if you let me make the coffee. Sunday morning, Ryan showed up just before 9 with a brown paper bag under one arm and a small bouquet of yellow daisies in the other. Flowers, Emily said, eyebrows raised. They were next to the bread, he said, half grinning. Felt like the right move. She took them a little shy. They're beautiful. Inside, Lily squealed at the sight of him, ran full speed into his legs and dragged him toward the couch like she'd been waiting all week. Emily set out plates and mugs while Ryan unpacked the food, French toast wrapped in foil berries in a Tupperware and a bottle of real maple syrup. I told you, he said, I take breakfast seriously. Emily handed him a cup of coffee and watched him pour syrup like it was a ritual. He had a way of moving in a space like he belonged there, but didn't assume he did. It made her feel strangely safe. They sat together at the table while Lily took turns between bites in feeding the bunny imaginary pancakes. So, Ryan said, what's next? Next for you, life, work, anything. Emily gave a tired chuckle. Honestly, I'm in survival mode. I do payroll at a furniture store 3 days a week and freelance bookkeeping the other 2. It's barely enough. You're doing it, though. Trying to. It gets lonely. The words slipped out before she could stop them. She didn't mean to say it, but it hung there between them, honest and raw. Ryan looked down at his plate, then back up. Yeah, I get that. There was something fragile in the silence that followed, something that felt like it would break if either of them pushed too hard. So neither did. After breakfast, Ryan helped wash dishes while Lily played on the rug. She's lucky, he said quietly, to have you. Emily looked down at the soap suds, unsure what to say. I used to wonder, he continued, what it felt like to have someone waiting for me when I got home. A kid, a partner, someone who actually noticed when you walked in the door. She glanced at him, heart tight. Still wondering, she asked softly. Ryan didn't answer right away, then quietly, less lately. They stood there for a moment too long, the tension drawing a breath between them, leaning towards something neither was quite ready to name. That afternoon, Ryan left with a thank you, a wave, and a promise to check in soon. Emily watched him from the window as he walked to his truck, heart a mess of fear and hope. She didn't see her mother's car pull up until it was too late. The knock on the door came sharp and insistent. Emily opened it to find her mother already stepping inside. Mom, I was in the neighborhood and I wanted to talk about him. Emily stiffened. What about him? That man, the plumber. He's not a babysitter, Emily. He's not Lily's father. You can't just let some man step into her life and confuse her. Emily shut the door quietly. Ryan has been nothing but kind. He's helped us more than anyone has in years. I'm sure he has, but what happens when he leaves? What happens when Lily gets attached and then he disappears like her real father did? Emily's throat tightened. You think I haven't thought about that? I think you need to think about it more. You've always been too soft when it comes to men. Emily felt the burn behind her eyes. He's not like the others. Her mother sighed, exasperated. They never are until they are. She turned to leave without waiting for a response, her heels clicking like a judge's gavel. When the door closed, Emily stood there shaking. That night, she sat on the couch with Lily asleep in her lap and the bunny tucked under her arm. She thought about the way Ryan had smiled when Lily hugged him, how he hadn't flinched when she called him daddy, how he hadn't laughed or corrected her harshly. He'd just shown up, and her mother's voice rang in her ears. What happens when he leaves? What did happen if he left? Would she survive that disappointment? Would Lily? The truth was she didn't know, and that terrified her more than anything. It started with silence, not the kind you notice right away, but the kind that slowly stretches between words, turning comfortable. Quiet into something brittle, something anxious. Ryan didn't hear from Emily the next day or the day after that. He told himself to wait, not to push, but then a week passed, and then another, and still nothing. Ryan sat in his truck one morning after finishing a job out in Hafford, hands still stained from copper pipe polish. He scrolled to Emily's name on his phone for the fifth time that day, thumb hovering over the screen. He started typing, hey, just wanted to see how you and Lily are doing, son, then paused, deleted it, typed again. Missed our breakfast talks. Hope everything's okay. Backspace, backspace, backspace. He tossed the phone onto the passenger seat, frustrated. He hadn't done anything wrong, had he? Emily, meanwhile, stared at the same unanswered messages on her own screen, not because Ryan hadn't sent them, but because she hadn't responded, because she didn't know how to, because after her mother's visit, after the carefully dropped judgments and barbed warnings, her mind had become a war zone. She wanted to talk to Ryan. She missed talking to Ryan, but the fear was louder than her longing. What if her mother was right? What if she was confusing Lily? What if she was confused? One night after Lily went to sleep, Emily pulled out a box from the top of her closet, the one she hadn't opened in years. Inside were photos, hospital papers, a pair of baby socks she could never bring herself to throw away, and a letter, the only one Lily's father had ever written. She read it again, the same hollow words, the same excuses about not being ready, about needing space, about not being good enough to be a father. And somewhere between the lines, Emily started to believe him, because here she was 5 years later, still scared, still alone, still doubting herself. By the third week of silence, Ryan gave up. He stopped driving, passed her street, stopped checking his phone every 10 minutes. He buried himself in work, water heaters, burst valves, leaking dishwashers, anything to keep his hands busy and his heart quiet. But it didn't help. Every time he saw a little girl with a stuffed animal, he thought of Lily. Every time he heard a woman laugh with her kid at the hardware store, he thought of Emily's voice. He missed her. He missed them, and that was the problem. One rainy Thursday afternoon, Ryan was under a sink in Southside when his phone buzzed. He didn't check it right away, but when he did, his breath caught Emily Hayes. I'm sorry I pulled away. It wasn't much, just 7 words, but they hit like a wave. He stared at the screen, unsure if he was imagining it. Another message followed, can we talk? I think I messed up. He called her immediately. When Emily picked up, her voice was shaky quiet. "I didn't mean to ghost you," she said. "I just panicked." "Panicked?" Ryan asked gently. "Yeah, I keep hearing my mom's voice in my head telling me I'm doing it all wrong, that letting you in was a mistake." There was a pause, a rustle of movement. Maybe she was pacing. "And I started to believe her," she continued. "Not because I think you'd hurt us, but because I'm afraid of what it means if you leave like he did." Ryan was quiet. "I get it," he said finally. "I really do." "You don't have to say that." "I'm not just saying it. I lived it." Emily stopped moving. "What do you mean?" "I've been on the other side of that door, the kid who waited for someone to come back, who got promised things that never happened. I've been Lily." The silence grew thick. "I'm not him," Ryan said, "but I can't promise I'll never mess up. I can only promise I won't disappear without a word, that I won't leave without trying." Emily's breath hitched. "I just don't want to need someone again," she whispered. "I know, but maybe needing someone isn't the weakness you think it is." They didn't say, "I miss you." They didn't talk about the birthday or the flowers or the tension that had slowly built between them over shared coffee and quiet repairs. But the conversation ended with a smile and a plan. That weekend, Lily caught a cold. It wasn't serious, but enough to keep her home from daycare and glued to the couch under a mountain of tissues and cartoons. Emily texted Ryan a picture of her surrounded by a battalion of stuffed animals. "Send reinforcements. She's requesting chicken soup and a new episode of Bluey on TikTok." He replied, "On it." Half an hour later, he was at their door with 2 steaming containers, a box of tissues with kittens on it, and a DVD set of children's cartoons from the 90s. "She may not appreciate the classics," he warned as he handed it over. Emily gave him a long look. "I do." They didn't talk much that afternoon. Ryan sat on the floor quietly helping Lily color while she sniffled and leaned on his arm like she'd never stopped. Emily watched from the kitchen, overwhelmed by how natural it looked, too natural. Her chest ached. That night, after Lily was in bed, Emily and Ryan stood on the small balcony outside her apartment, sharing a blanket and listening to the rain. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For not making me feel bad for still showing up." Ryan turned toward her, his eyes darker in the low light. "I'll always show up if you let me." She didn't say anything, but she didn't pull away when he took her hand. Her fingers laced with his like they'd always known how. But with every step forward came a step back. The next morning, Emily found Lily playing in the hallway with a toy wrench Ryan had given her weeks ago. She was pretending to fix the doorframe. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" Emily asked. "Fixing the house like Daddy Ryan." Emily froze. She crouched down slowly. "Baby, you know Ryan's not your daddy, right?" Lily looked up, frowning in confusion. "But he comes when we need him." Emily swallowed hard. "Yes, he does, but it's different." "Why?" Emily had no answer, not one she could give a 4-year-old without unraveling the little piece they had left. She didn't tell Ryan about that conversation, but something changed again. A little distance, a touch less warmth in her voice. Ryan noticed, of course, but this time he didn't press. He just helped her fix the dripping faucet, wipe grease off Lily's nose when she wandered in mid-repair, and quietly said goodbye without lingering. When the door closed behind him, Emily leaned against it and cried. She didn't know if she was crying because she wanted him to stay or because she was scared he actually would. Ryan didn't come back the next week, not because she told him not to, but because he needed to breathe. He needed to figure out whether being part of their world was helping or just hurting them both more in the long run. But all he could think about was Lily's face when she said his name, and Emily's silence, and the way her hand had fit in his like it belonged there. It started with thunder, the kind that rolled low and heavy, like the sky was warning everyone to stay inside. Rain came down in sheets, soaking sidewalks and pooling in gutters. By evening, the storm had knocked out power across half the city, and Emily's apartment was one of the unlucky ones. She lit a candle in the kitchen, wrapped Lily in a blanket, and listened as water dripped somewhere behind the bathroom wall. The sound was faint at first, but then it grew louder, faster, drip, 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 drip. Emily stepped into the hallway, heart sinking. The paint was bubbling. The sound was turning into a trickle. Then crackwater burst from the ceiling with a gurgling cough. "Oh no!" Lily squealed in surprise as a wet patch spread across the hallway carpet. Emily scrambled for towels, tossing them down in a panic. Nothing was working. The ceiling was leaking like a sieve. She stood frozen for a moment, water pooling around her bare feet. She had no one else to call, so she called him. Ryan had just gotten home. He was peeling off his soaked work shirt when his phone buzzed. Emily. He stared at her name for half a second before answering. Hey, Ryan, I'm sorry, I wouldn't call unless it was bad. What's wrong? There's a pipe something in the ceiling. It just gave out. The rain's coming in, and I don't know what to do. I've tried. I'm on my way. He didn't ask where, didn't ask how bad. He just threw his tools into a duffel, grabbed his raincoat, and ran out the door. When Ryan arrived, Emily looked like a woman holding back the ocean. She was barefoot, wet, and clutching a towel to her chest like armor. Her eyes welled when she saw him. I tried to stop it, she said. You did fine, Ryan said, brushing past her gently. Let me take a look. Lily peeked out from behind the couch, wrapped in a fuzzy blanket, and lit up. Ryan. Hey, troublemaker. He smiled, crouching to ruffle her hair. You holding down the fort? She nodded seriously. There's a leak dragon in the ceiling. He grinned. Well, I brought my sword. Ryan worked in silence for a while, assessing the damage. The pipe that fed the upstairs unit's bathroom had split cleanly at a rust joint, probably corroded for months, just waiting for a storm like this. He cut the water line, patched what he could, and packed insulation into the ceiling cavity. It wasn't perfect, but it would hold for tonight. When he finally stepped back, dripping and exhausted, Emily was watching him with wide eyes. You okay? He asked. She nodded but didn't speak. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, a picture book still open on her lap. Ryan knelt beside her, gently adjusted the blanket over her shoulder. She wouldn't stop asking for you, Emily said softly. He looked up. I didn't know how to explain why you stopped coming. I didn't even know what to tell myself. Ryan stood slowly, his voice calm but tired. I thought maybe I was making things worse. Maybe you needed space to figure things out. I did. He nodded once, but then the silence got loud. She continued, stepping closer. Lily asked about you every day. She started lining up her toys in the hallway like she was waiting for you to show up. Ryan swallowed hard. I didn't want to be just a fix-some guy who shows up with a wrench and disappears when things are quiet again. You're not. I was starting to feel like I was. Emily hesitated, then very slowly she reached for his hand. You've been more to us in 2 months than Lily's father was in 2 years, she said. Ryan's eyes flicked up to meet hers. That scares me, she admitted. It scares me how much I rely on you, how much she looks for you, how much I... She broke off. Ryan stepped closer. How much you what? Her voice trembled. How much I want you here even when things are quiet, especially then. Thunder cracked outside, but inside there was only stillness. Ryan's fingers brushed her cheek, then tucked a strand of wet hair behind her ear. I want to be here, he said, but only if it's what you want. Not just Lily, not just the house. I do, she whispered. God, I do. They didn't kiss that night. They sat on the couch side by side with sleeping Lily between them. Ryan's hand rested lightly over hers, their fingers interlaced. The apartment smelled faintly of rain and old carpet. Candles flickered on the windowsill. A soft hum of city life echoed outside. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. It was real. The next morning, Emily made pancakes, terrible ones. Ryan smiled through every bite. Lily wore his oversized tool belt while she helped stir batter, giggling as it slid down her waist every few seconds. You're a natural, Ryan told her. I'm your plumber princess, she declared. Emily nearly choked on her coffee. Ryan laughed so hard he had to sit down. Later, when the sun came out and the storm finally passed, Ryan climbed back into the ceiling to finish the repair properly. He fixed the insulation, replaced the faulty section of pipe, and sealed the joint with care. When he came down, covered in dust and sweat, Emily was waiting with a cold bottle of water and a towel. You didn't have to do all that, she said. I wanted to. You always say that because it's true. Emily looked at him for a long time, then leaned in and kissed his cheek. Thank you, she murmured, for everything. Ryan didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, Emily and Ryan sat on the balcony again. No rain, no thunder, just quiet. I'm not perfect, she said softly. There are going to be days when I freak out again, when I doubt everything. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking if you can handle that. Ryan looked at her, really looked. I've spent most of my life trying to find something that felt like home, he said, and I never found it, not really until now. Emily's eyes shimmered. I don't need perfect, he continued. I just need honest. And this us feels honest. She reached for his hand again. This time it wasn't tentative, it was certain. The storm had broken more than the ceiling. It had cracked open something between them, something that had been building for weeks, waiting for the right moment, not just longing, but permission to hope again, to trust, to build together. It had been 3 weeks since the storm, 3 weeks since the ceiling gave out, since Ryan came back, since something changed, not just in the apartment, but in all of them. The space felt different now, the air lighter. There was laughter in the mornings again, pancakes on Saturdays, shared glances over the tops of mugs. Lily had declared the bathroom officially unleaky, and Ryan a hero with magic pliers. He didn't correct her. This morning, Ryan arrived with a new toolbox for Lily, a tiny plastic one with toy versions of everything he used, complete with stickers she could put on the side. Now you have your own, he told her, crouching beside her in the living room, so you don't have to keep stealing mine. She looked up at him wide-eyed and serious. Can I fix things like you do? Absolutely, even hearts. Ryan froze for a second, then smiled. Yeah, especially those. Emily watched from the kitchen, her hand resting on the edge of the sink Ryan had once repaired the day they met. She remembered how exhausted she'd been back then, how afraid and alone, and now she was still tired, still unsure some days, but not alone. Never alone, not anymore. The project of the day was a small one, just replacing the warped paneling behind the bathroom cabinet. But Ryan insisted on doing it right. Whole thing needs to be gutted and repaneled, he said. Moisture's going to creep in again otherwise. I trust you, Emily replied simply. Ryan blinked. That word trust carried more weight than he was ready for. It was quiet, but it echoed. He nodded and got to work. Lily played foreman all afternoon, supervising Ryan with exaggerated nods and toy hammer corrections. Not like that, you got to whack it, she said, bonking the wall with her foam mallet. Ryan played along laughing. Emily leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, heart full. And then without warning, Lily stood in front of him and said, please don't leave. Ryan looked up slowly, his hands stilled. What? He asked gently. Please don't go away again, she said. I don't want you to leave. Emily's breath caught. She knelt beside her daughter. Sweetheart, Ryan's just fixing the wall. I know, Lily whispered, but I mean later. Ryan didn't answer right away. His throat was too tight. He looked at Emily, really looked at her, and she didn't look away. That night, after Lily was asleep, Emily and Ryan sat on the couch. The quiet between them was warm like the last embers of a fire. You don't have to leave right away, do you? Emily asked almost in a whisper. Ryan smiled at the words. They felt familiar, safe. No, he said, I don't. There was a long pause, then she said, do you want to stay for dinner? It wasn't the first time he'd eaten there, but tonight it felt like the first invitation, not out of convenience, out of hope. They cooked together in the tiny kitchen. The meal wasn't fancy, just pasta, some garlic bread, and a salad Ryan insisted on, but barely touched. Lily helped set the table, proudly arranging mismatched forks and napkins. It wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. After dinner, Ryan offered to help put Lily to bed. She handed him her favorite book and crawled onto her mattress with sleepy limbs. Can you read it? She mumbled. Of course. Emily leaned against the door frame and watched as Ryan settled in beside her, voice low and soft. And then the little bear said, home isn't a place, it's the people who love you. He glanced toward the door. Emily's eyes shimmered. He turned back to Lily, and the bear knew in his heart he'd finally found where he belonged. Later, when the lights were low and Lily's breathing evened out, Ryan stepped into the hallway. Emily was waiting there. I meant what I said, she told him. You don't have to leave. I want to stay, he said quietly, but not just for tonight. She nodded. I'm not asking you to move in. I'm not asking for promises. Just if this is real for you too, then let's stop pretending it's temporary. Ryan stepped closer. It's real, he said. So real it scares me. Emily smiled. Me too. He kissed her, then not the rushed, desperate kind, the kind that said, I'm here, I'm staying. I choose you. In the weeks that followed, their lives shifted slowly but undeniably. Ryan started keeping a toothbrush in the bathroom. Emily cleared a drawer in the hallway for his tools. Lily began the saying us when she talked about the future. There were still hard days, times when Emily doubted, times when Ryan pulled back, but they always came back to each other, always talked, always tried. Love, they learned, wasn't just about grand gestures. It was about showing up, fixing what broke, and choosing again and again not to run. One night, months later, Lily burst into the kitchen holding a crayon drawing. It was a messy picture of three stick figures holding hands in front of a house with a rainbow roof. She pointed. That's Mommy, that's me, and that's Daddy Ryan. Emily froze. Ryan did too. Lily beamed. Can we put it on the fridge? Emily turned slowly toward Ryan. He didn't speak. He just nodded and gently took the drawing from Lily's hand. Of course we can, he said. He stuck it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a cat, then turned back to Emily. Her eyes were shining. One of the most profound lessons from Ryan and Emily's story is the transformative power of showing up with kindness and staying through the messiness of life. It teaches us that love and connection aren't built on grand gestures, but on quiet, consistent choices, fixing a sink, bringing a toy, or simply listening without judgment. Ryan didn't just repair pipes, he mended hearts by being present, not perfect. Emily's courage to trust again despite her fears and past wounds reminds us that vulnerability is not weakness, but a gateway to healing. Their story shows that home isn't a place, but the people who choose you day after day through storms and silence. In a world that often feels rushed and disconnected, this tale urges us to slow down, to see the beauty in small acts, and to build trust with those who matter. It's a call to embrace the imperfections of life and to keep showing up even when it's hard. Let this story stir your heart to cherish the people who stay and to be that person for someone else. What did this story teach you about love, trust, or kindness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how it touched you. If this story warmed your heart or inspired you, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to join our community. Your support helps us share more stories that uplift and connect us all. Let's keep spreading hope together.